Hi everyone, and welcome to tonight's Young Scholars webinar, How to Make a Difference in Your Community. My name is Anna Yerushina. I'm NSHSS coordinator for ambassadors, our high school students program. So tonight, we're going to have a really meaningful conversation about how students can find a cause that they care about, um, take that first step and begin making a real impact in their schools and communities. As we're waiting for more people to join, let me share my screen in a second and we will start. Awesome. Lovely, lovely. All right. So, how to make a difference in your community? This is the webinar for young scholars and their parents. Whether you already have a service idea in mind or if you're just starting to think about how to get involved, this conversation is definitely for you. Tonight, we're going to be talking about let's see, talking about, and we're going to be talking about how students found a cause they care about, how they got started, challenges they faced, what they learned from giving back, and how students and parents can take the first step today. So before we begin, I'd love to get everyone involved. In the chat, please tell us what's one cause or issue that you care about. Can be helping animals, supporting younger students, cleaning up the environment, anything, anything. Um, I'll just give everyone a few seconds to drop something in the chat. All right. Don't be shy, don't be shy. Well, giving you a few seconds to drop your answers in the chat. I'm gonna introduce our panel for today. Antonio Pizza, our NSHSS Ambassador Vice President. You know him, he's been hosting previous webinars multiple times. And Ariana Perez, she's Ambassador Social Media Engagement and Review Team Lead. So these two amazing students, you can unmute yourselves, introduce yourselves while we're waiting for our middle school students to reply in the chat.
Guess I'll go first. Hi, my name's Ari. I'm an online student from Plymouth. I'm a senior in high school, but my high school is online. Super cool. I'm a National Society of High Schools Scholars team lead, as Anna previously mentioned. And something that I'm passionate about is representation in children's mental health.
That was really cool, Aria. I'm Antonio Pizza. I'm a freshman at the University of Central Florida. And what really is my drive in life is making the world a better place. I'm a Boy Scout and I love just giving back to the community.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Both of you care deeply about service, leadership, improving your community. I know that this topic is a hot topic for our ambassador, leadership meetings and conversations. So it's going to be amazing, just amazing. Well, let's go back to our little slide. And I'm seeing already some responses in the chat. Thank you so much. Supporting younger students. This is amazing. All right. Helping my local community. That's exactly what we are going to talk about today, right? Okay. Thank you for your replies. Let's go to the next slide. Why it matters. Before we start the actual panel and discussion with our great panelists, I want to take just a brief moment to talk about why this matters. Giving back really helps students to do so much more than just complete a project or volunteer for a few hours. So it does help you to build confidence, discover your strengths, practice leadership, support others in meaningful ways, turn ideas into action, and create change in your community. And for parents, helping children can uh, get involved can be a powerful way to support their growth into compassionate, proactive leaders. So tonight is just about volunteering. It's about also about discovering that even small actions can lead to real impact. We'll see how that works. And our panelists will show their personal experiences. Okay, let's jump right into it. Um, Thank you so much, Ari and Antonio, for being here tonight. We're excited to hear your stories and your advice. We'll start with finding your cause. To start us off, each of you, please briefly introduce yourself once again and share a few words about the issue or cause that matters most to you. Let's start with Antonio.
So when talking about this, I always like to throw in a Boy Scout reference, because that's really like drives me in my life. And one thing was when I was getting my Eagle Scout project done, I had a meeting with my advisor, and I basically wanted to get my Eagle project done. I was going to do anything. I didn't really care what it was, and he said no. There are two types of Eagle Scouts. There's one who just simply to do the project, to throw it on their resume, and they don't really care about the project. And there's a second one who actually cares and it has a connection. So when doing my Eagle Scout project, I ended up doing it about chess. In high school, I was the president and founder of my high school's chess team, and in middle school, I also did chess too. But what was also neat about it was during high school, my freshman year, I moved to Florida, but I still wanted to get back to both communities. So that was something that really mattered to me. So I actually did an Eagle Scout project both in New Jersey and in Florida, both oriented around chess. So that was really my driving force.
That's amazing. Thank you, Antonio. What about you, Ari?
So, like I mentioned previously, I really am passionate about representation in children's mental health. I currently work for kindergarten as a toddler teacher. Because I'm online, I can work longer hours, so I'm actively in a classroom. Not right now, but you know. And what makes me passionate specifically about the children's mental health is there are so many developmental delays and behavioral challenges that are rising in the upcoming years and have been for the past few, and there's just not enough resources to get everyone this support and the assistance that they need. So I've taken steps. I've reached out to different employers. Reached out to like ABA Centers of America, and once I'm graduated, I will hopefully start my career in behavioral technician tech.
That's amazing. Okay, fingers crossed. You can achieve everything you want. Yeah. Thank you, guys. I love that each of you has a unique story and a different perspective. So we're going to be talking about like different backgrounds and whatnot. So here's our next question. When you were in middle school, like right now, Antonio is already in college, and Ariana, she is a high school senior, I believe, right? So when you were in middle school, what was the cause that stood out to you the most? Was it different from the cause that you are passionate about right now? And why did it feel personally important to you? That's probably chess for Antonio, right?
So for
Okay.
me personally, it was interesting to look at because there's different each was heavily involved in both communities, both in New Jersey and Florida. But different aspects of leadership had a different driving force for me. So for Scouts, it was leaving the world a better place. But for when I was the president of the chess club, it was really about growing the members and showing that this club, in the sport chess actually has some competition to it, and that one of our players was a kid who was handicapped. He was in a wheelchair and he wanted to be part of a sports team, and he couldn't play basketball, or he couldn't play soccer, he couldn't really try out even for those teams, but he actually found a team with the chess team actually, and I thought that it was really inspirational. That was really became a driving force in my later high school years on how can this not only be about growing members, but also about, helping people and finding people their passion and their cause in life.
All right. Thank you, Antonio.
Thing, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So in middle school for me, I think my biggest thing was probably bullying and inclusivity. I was super awkward in middle school just because I was still trying to figure out who I was. That year, I didn't have a lot of friends. All my friends from elementary school, we ended up in different places. So it's always a little bit scary being by yourself when no one else really knows you, especially when they add in like another 100 students into your mix every day. And I just, yeah, didn't really know who I was. So that kind of made me like an easy target for some unkind comments. And I felt kind of singled out in some scenarios. And then COVID, sixth and seventh grade, that wasn't the best because for my social abilities. And then when I came back in eighth grade, I just made the promise to myself to be the someone I needed back then in sixth grade when all that started. And what that entailed was being kinder, always having a seat open for somebody, and just sticking up for other people. And that didn't really change like how others treated me, but it's like that saying, change the world with your smile, don't let the world change yours. So I think that if everyone's just a little bit kinder to themselves and they were more inclusive, then I think a lot more people would smile and the world wouldn't change everyone else's smile.
Thank you, Ari. I think it's a very powerful idea. Make people smile, find something meaningful in the cause that you care about. And I think you both already touched on how this was something worth pursuing, right? Why you decided to care about this particular cause. But let's just wrap up and just answer this specific question. So, was there like a specific moment that you felt that it became personally important to you and why?
Yeah, so I remember it was like first couple weeks of eighth grade and everyone's coming back in. Some people didn't do seventh and sixth grade in person. So everyone's coming back in. We're all in the cafeteria, and I see like one person standing there, and they're just kind of looking around. So I made sure to make eye contact. I have very crazy eye contact. I won't let go. And I'm like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then I found another one, and I had just a full table of people in like 5 minutes. And everyone's just like, oh my goodness, thank you, because I didn't know where I was going to sit because there was a lot of new people that year, and I was just like, you know what? Because I've done that, been there, done that, and it's not fun. So that just and it feels good when you know that you made someone else's day a little bit brighter. So always be kinder.
That reminds me of my time in COVID. We had COVID. For me, it was eighth grade, graduation year and stuff. And I remember, walking into class and I just noticed that something was off about the class. This class that, before COVID we left and we were all social and stuff, and I walked back into the class and everyone's like glued to their phones. And that was a big thing. And and I still see that even, when I went to high school and I still see it in college all the time that people don't like socializing with each other. But if you realize that if you're in a quiet room and if you can start one conversation, everyone else will start talking. And it's magical how that can work. So I always encourage people, if you see someone, if you're in a quiet room or everyone's being antisocial, try to start one conversation and see how all the room turns around and starts talking too.
Well, thank you, team. I think this is such an important takeaway already. Sometimes code starts with just one experience, one feeling, or one moment when you realize, like, oh, this matters to me, or I want to change this, or I want to help someone. So, yeah, ask yourself these questions like, what matters to you? Whom do you want to help? Etc., etc. Okay, let's transition to next slide. Getting started. So feeling and thinking is important, but making the very first step is very challenging for everyone always, regardless their previous experiences. Um, so now let's talk about something that can feel hard for a lot of students, right? Getting started, hard for me as well, hard for everyone. A lot of people want to help, but they are not always sure, right? Like what the first step looks like. So my first question to you guys is, what was the very first step you took? Well, I guess we already also partially answered this question, especially Ari. And how did you find opportunities to later maybe volunteer regarding this cause or get involved into some activities related to your cause? All right.
Okay. For this, I realized around like my junior year, so last year, I was about 16, 17, that I wanted to start my own nonprofit. I was very bold for adolescents that had social interaction challenges or people that just felt misunderstood sometimes. I wanted to do like this whole thing. I forget what I called it, but my first step was I looked at my state's nonprofit registration requirements. In a lot of places, you got to be 18, but still never too early to kind of start thinking about what you want to do, getting familiar with the paperwork, the steps. And it sounds scary when everyone throws out the word paperwork, but it's really not, especially when you look up the definitions. Just look up a definition, put it in somewhere where you can get an example. But that was my first step. I just kind of looked up the regulations and what was entailed with a nonprofit.
So for me, I had a different approach. It was kind of realizing, what's going on in your school, in your community. We all have a habit of, talking about, oh, blah 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 did this or someone did that or this could be better. But until you actually take that action, you really don't have the right to really complain about it. So I always encourage people, if you see something wrong, to go out there and make a change and don't just sit back and wait for others. So when I was growing up, even in middle school, in COVID, um, they shut down all the clubs. And I said, I emailed I emailed our class president, I emailed the principal, and I said, look, we can host a virtual chess club online. We can keep the community going, and it will give these people who are stuck at home some interaction with other humans outside of, these virtual school lessons. And it took a couple of months, but I eventually convinced the principal to do that, to let us meet virtually and use the Google Meet software to run this club. And it brought the club back, and we were actually got more members after the following year because of that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that's really encouraging actually to know that um, you don't need to have everything figured out from day one. You can either research it, be structural like Ari about it, or reach out to your peers, to your principal, to some other people in your environment, like your parent, even for help. And together, it can be even easier to make the first step, right? Get some assistance. Um, Speaking about assistance, did you start on your own or did someone help you? So, I mean, Antonio, I guess more or less answered this question. What about you, Ari? Are you on your own on your journey to create a nonprofit or someone is helping you from?
So when I realized that I had to be 18 in order to start my nonprofit, when I realized that,
Mhm.
I kind of decided to table it so I could get my paperwork in order, so I could fill it out and then apply. So now that I'm 18, I will probably be doing it independently, So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Um, all right. So you've been through this, done that. So what advice would you give someone who wants to start but feels unsure?
Honestly, have faith in your why. And if you're passionate about whatever topic, whatever issue, whatever cause it is, let that carry you and don't worry about the background noise of, oh, you're this many years. You can't do that. Yep. Yes, you can. If it's legal, yes, you can. And if, what's the other thing I was gonna say? If you're legal, yes, you can, of age. And if you want to, you can do it. You really can. Because a no from one person, unless they're the say so, isn't really a no. It's a redirection. It's a redirection to another door way.
Right.
To definitely build off of that, I noticed, as I get older, the appreciation for having a team to bounce ideas off of. Sometimes you think of a leader as a one-man show, but in reality, it involves so many background characters. So I always encourage, if you're ever jumping into a project, get feedback from people, ask around, and feedback is a gift. You can accept it or you can reject it. So some feedback you get, you may not like, and you have all rights to reject that. But other times, someone will point something out to you, and you'll be like, oh, that's a really good point. Maybe I should take a different approach to this. But it's also important to build a team around you. You can find people who have similar ideas with you and that will work with you, and you can lead that group to do so much more. Because if you're only one person, you can only do a certain amount of things in the day. But if you're leading a team of 5 or 10 people, each of them can do like 10 things a day. So it really builds up the impact you can make in the community.
Right, right. Yeah. Ask around, ask your friends, ask your family. Maybe somebody else is interested in the same issue as you are, passionate about the same topic. For those who gather their wits and is ready to take that first step and maybe to be 100% sure there's going to be successful. They want to know what are especially what service ideas are especially good for beginners, easy to start, or maybe very popular already. Schools might have clubs or organizations might have opportunities for middle school students. Yeah, what kinds of service
Yeah.
projects or
So
ideas do you think are
so
especially good for
there's
middle school students, yeah, and beginners?
there's definitely, when you're in high school and probably middle school, there's probably a lot of organizations that you could join that will lead you in the right direction. So when I was in high school, I joined an environmental club and we did a lot of beach cleanups and stuff like that. And we did garden cleanups and we planted seeds and stuff. But I just did that because I was like, oh, I have nothing better to do. But then you compare it to like another member in the club who that was their passion. They wanted to save the environment and they took a lot more out of that club than I did, who was just there to really have fun and try something new. So I think, when you're looking at trying to find a project and start a project, don't just look around, find something that speaks to you, find something that you can personally relate to and have a strong connection to, because when that happens, you have your whole passion, your whole being put into that and not just, oh, I just want to throw this on my resume.
Right, totally agree. Start with something one, a small project or idea, something that speaks to you personally, and then look for volunteer opportunities at school. Maybe ask your teacher, counselor, even librarians. It depends on your project, right? Explore community organizations. All this information is available online. Um, okay, Ari, do you have anything to add on top of this?
Yeah, when you're beginning, what what I would say absolutely is find whatever works for your schedule, whatever is on the line between your comfort zone and outside your comfort zone, because it can be so easy to get burned out by all this inspiration. So it's very important to remember what you can do, what your limit is, and what is something for the future.
Absolutely agree. Yeah. All right. So building something bigger is the next step. Once someone takes that first step, the next question is usually, how do you grow that impact, right? I already have something I'm passionate about. I found my people, or I found an organization, and now I want my impact to be meaningful. I want to grow my impact. So let's talk about building something bigger. And the first question to you going to be, how did your project or involvement grow over time? So maybe you started small and then you just grew into something more beautiful, more meaningful along the way.
So, I remember that when I first started working at KinderCare, I'm a toddler teacher. I don't remember if I mentioned that yet. I started off as an assistant in name. I still am an assistant, but I was only working a couple hours, and I saw that I really enjoyed the toddler team. I really enjoyed working with the kids, and so I asked, I'm already online. I'm sitting at home for this amount of time, could I start coming in earlier to work with the kids? And they were like, yeah. So I think that when I grew my involvement with them, a part of me also grew because now I get to plan curriculum. I get to kind of update their daily sheets. I get to make connections with the kids and with the parents more than what I did when I was working from 12 to 5. I now work 9 to 4. And so I think just getting more involved, taking that step of more responsibility, which I had to think about a lot if I could handle it with school, and I'm doing great, thankfully. So yeah.
Yeah, that on add on to that, I remember when I first joined actually NSHSS and the ambassador program. And we have the Slack and people talk in the Slack, but it was very disorganized. I don't want to say disorganized, but it was different. It was different. And I remember getting this message from this guy named Blaze, and he was like, "Look, man, I want to propose these ideas." And I had nothing better to do, and I said, "Sure, Blaze, let's do this." And then I got dragged into being the vice president of the ambassador program. But it's definitely about and I think back of that is, I get busy with college and I maybe 1 or 2 months I stop looking at the Slack and I look back on it And I'm like, wow, well, now we have this coffee support group. We have all these different, we have team leads now. And I think about like how that when I joined, the impact that I had was like, okay, this is cool, I guess, to now we have this whole organized system, and it's just impressive of how these new members who come in are going to have a whole different experience than when I came in. And, I hope that it really keeps them activated in the program longer.
Yeah, that's a great example. So I think if you are in a club or you're starting a club, feel free to always share your feedback, reach out to club president, to your teacher, to whoever's in charge, because you can make more impact, of course. And you should, if you have ideas, if these ideas are great, they should be implemented. And that happens in NSHSS ambassador program. We hope to further develop Young Scholars program to something even more interactive in the future. So yeah, working on it. um, and speaking about teams and working together and finding new people. So, my next question is, did you invite others to help? I know that we also partially covered these questions. And how do you do that? How do you reach out to people? How do you invite them to be part of something you're working on?
So when I'm working in the classroom, I meet with the teacher in there. It's me, my BFF Stacy and me for the rest of the life. And we'll kind of go over the day of what we're going to do. We've prepped the activities the day before in the projects. And then the next day, we're like, okay, who is going to take the fantabulous pictures? Who is going to clean them up after all of their arms are covered in red paint from painting ladybugs? And we just divvy up the things that we're doing in a day. So not one person is carrying too much. And also, I don't have to clean the dishes. Instead, I put them to sleep because I don't like the dishes.
Yeah, definitely to build off of that. It's I always say, if you can strike a conversation with someone and if they seem like they're into it, very likely they're going to be willing to help you out with it. So it's just all about reaching out to the people, maybe someone in your class who you're best friends with, and you want to start a you guys play video games together and you guys want to start a video game club. You guys share those same, hobbies, and you have a connection through that. So it's about building connections with all those peers around you. And then from that, you can grow and have a team assembled.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Bringing people in is the next step, probably. Not for everyone, even if you want to do it on your own. Of course, you absolutely can do that because you can do anything you set your mind on. Um, but the next question is going to be, so what happened um, after and what helped you keep going after the first step? So let's say you started something small, you turned it small idea into something more meaningful. How do you keep going? How do you find strength and inspiration moving forward?
It's a lot of self-encouragement. So when I'm there and things are happening because toddlers are toddlers, I like to tell myself I'm making a difference because I know that what I am able to do with these kids is something that is going to impact them for the rest of their lives. So just remembering your why, like I said earlier, have faith in your why.
Yeah. Another thing that is important to realize is that, once you start something, you have a bunch of people following your lead, a bunch of members. So, if we look at Ari's example, you have these toddlers now who are with you, they are following your lead. And, I look at myself, I'm in Boy Scouts Order of the Arrow, the Honor Society within Boy Scouts also, and I'm a chapter chief, and we have 128 members. And sometimes with 128 middle schoolers through high schoolers and a little bit of college students, it gets wild up, they get a little hectic sometimes, but you look around the room and you see how many of them are actually having fun and they're enjoying themselves, and you say, that's the reason that I'm doing this. They are the driving force that keeps you going through those hard times, and sometimes you have to take that second and look around and see all the things you have done that has brought you to that current point. All those people who are relying on you keep pushing you forward to complete more things, to get more goals done so you can do the best you can do and leave a true impact on the organization you're working for.
Thank you. I love that. I love that. After the excitement of the first step wears off and it happens eventually, of course, remember why you're doing what you're doing and who you're doing it for. This is also very important. Okay, challenges and lessons. Nobody likes talking about their little mistakes, which actually is a great way to learn new things and progress and get better. So, of course, no journey is perfect. We can talk honestly, I think, about the challenges too. What was the challenge that you faced personally? And did anything not go as planned related to all these little initiatives that you are involved with?
So when I first started at work, it was an adjustment because I had done in-person school all the way up until my junior year of high school. My junior year, I started going online, and then I couldn't just sit at the house all day, which is when I started working. And then it was kind of just balancing at first. At first, getting the balance of, okay, I'm gonna do this amount of work, I'm gonna do my actual schoolwork, and I kind of got behind a little bit, but so that really wasn't planned at all. But I did catch up and I did use my resources to get me through it. So, yeah, just unseen difficulties when you're starting something new, but that's with everything.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. You know, you cannot plan for everything. You are going, anything that you do in life, you're going to make a mistake. You're never going to be perfect. And the most important thing is to acknowledge that, to realize, oh, I made a mistake, but more importantly, to learn from that mistake. You know, there's an incident that I had within Boy Scouts where I did a prank on someone and they didn't take the prank very well. And it caused them to really step back and to resign actually from their position. It was a big serious thing. But what was really nice to have was an advisor there who said, you know, who helped me acknowledge what I did and take responsibility for what I did, but also guided me through what I could have done differently and also what I learned from that, you know. How can I be a better person? Because everything we do in life, every experience we go to through makes us who we are, whether it's a mistake, whether it's the lessons we learn, the good things and the bad things, all make us who we are. So it's important to learn from our mistakes and try not to do them again.
Hmm. All right. What these experiences taught you about leadership service and yourself as a part of experience of making mistakes and fixing your mistakes sometimes?
Time management and organization. I now have a notebook for my lessons, I have a notebook for my observations, I have a bunch of notebooks for all of my schoolwork, and I have so many timers throughout the day for different things.
I
That's a
should
great advice. Whenever you're so busy, you just need to keep track of everything.
I should really follow Ari's plan because I do not have a notebook. I do not have timers, and my life is pretty disorganized.
Oh
But
no.
you know, what's something I've really taken away this year from all the leadership experience and service I've done this year is that you never stop learning. You are never going to be a perfect leader. And that's something that you can work on throughout your entire life. There is no perfect leader. You're going to have to make some choices that the group does not all of the group likes. So it's important to realize that you're still learning. You're never going to be perfect, but what you can do is take something away from it and try to do the best you can every day.
Wow. Well, thank you for being honest about this experiences that you had. And I think it's really helpful for students to hear that challenges are normal, right? So on top of everything that was already has been said, what's something you wish you had known when you first started? Like some one singular wisdom that would possibly just make it much easier and a better experience from the very start. if anything comes to mind at all.
It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be honest, kind,
Mhm.
and your best.
Um, Knowing what you can exactly do for me was definitely something I wish I learned. Sometimes you go in with like a huge vision and all of a sudden you just signed up your whole team to do 40 projects and they can't do 40 projects because they have also a life outside of it. So it's important to, talk to your team and, it's going to be disappointing when you really want to do this other project but you still haven't finished the previous project and realizing that you can't do that and talking to your team to get to that point and say to that organization, hey, look, we have to push this back more because we're still working. Because the worst thing you can ever do is overcommit, and I've definitely overcommitted myself and team members that I've worked with before, so it's important to realize your limits.
Okay, also an important takeaway. Sure, growth often happens in the moments that stretch you, right? You don't have to be always comfortable. Sometimes it's a learning process. Okay, before we jump into Q&A, like open Q&A, with some questions from the audience, let's just wrap it up a little bit with helpful next steps. Um, just make this practical for everyone joining us tonight. Just to summarize everything that was said. So if you're listening and thinking, I want to do something, but I don't know where to begin, right? Here are a few good starting points for you. So look at the slides. Um, you can look for volunteer opportunities at school, somewhere close to home, right? Ask teachers, counselors, or even librarians about local needs. If you don't know where to start, look close to home by checking with local parks, departments, animal shelters, food banks, museums, and faith communities. Whatever speaks to you, there might already be an organization that does that on a larger scale, right? You can just join them, learn something new, then start something of your own. You can also explore community organizations and nonprofits. Talk with your family, of course, about safe ways to get involved and start with one small project or idea. Because we were touching a little bit on uh, getting disenchanted and maybe burning out. So we don't want anyone to burn out. We want you to continue with your small project or idea. So pick one and make your first step. The important thing is not to wait until you have the perfect plan, as we said before. No one is perfect. There is no such thing as perfect leader. Start just with one action and see where it takes you. All right. Okay. Reflection activity. Think about your first step, right? What is one issue you care about? What is one small action you could take this month? And who is the person who could help you to get started, right? I want everyone listening to think about these three questions. And if you'd like, drop your answer in the chat. Share one idea for how you could make a difference in your school and community. Right. Don't be shy. Share your ideas with us. What's the very, very first step that you would take today? Okay, well, we are waiting for some replies. Guys, if you had to start something new right now, what would be your first step? You would be like, oh, I have this crazy new idea. What is it? Figure out if there are organizations doing that, or asking your parent, friend, teacher for help, or researching online. What would be your first step?
Researching what's already there and then making my own separate list, having two lists, what's already there, what can be done better. Because they've already done the trial and
Mhm.
error. So you get to go through and kind of just check off the boxes.
Right. Okay, I see. Answers start coming. Finding a team, yeah, as what we mentioned, it's always better and easier to start when you have a team, peers, friends, whoever shares your ideals. Volunteering for medical offices to make a difference. Great, yeah. That if that's what inspires you, that's what you should do. Animal shelter and try to help animals to find their homes. Thank you guys. These are beautiful ideas. These are beautiful first steps. Something that can be done even this week. You don't have to postpone it for later. Small actions can create real impact, right? Okay, open Q&A. Ask anything. Ask anything. We're moving to our live session with Q&A. So you can either ask in the chat or you see there's a little icon that says Q&A. You can ask your questions there and we'll reply live right now. If you have a question about making a difference in your community, getting started, what else, staying motivated, finding a cause you care about, please drop it in the Q&A or in the chat. Um, right. And while we are waiting for our questions, here's just like some prompt question for our panelists. How can parents help children explore causes they care about? What are good ways to encourage, not discourage action without putting on too much pressure? Speaking from personal experience, maybe with your parents.
I think following up, because I know when like a year or two ago, when I told my mom I wanted to do this with the mental health for the adolescents and teenagers, she was like, oh, that's awesome. But then I remember I kept bringing it up. So I think that if sometimes she asked me, hey, how's this going? Which she did once in a while, but I think not to the point where it's like overwhelming. Did you do this yet? Did you do this yet? More like, how's it going? Keep it free, keep it open, and just follow up. Seem interested because you most definitely are.
I think that a lot of times, there's multiple ways a parent can support depending on what role it is. So, for example, the chess team, we would have sometimes pizza at the meetings. That would be in charge of getting the pizza. While I was in school the entire day, I couldn't go and order a pizza. So my parents really stepped in and were able to get the pizza, drop the pizza off the school, and I would run down and get it and bring it back to the meeting. But other things, sometimes you know it's doing the research where, sometimes kids come up with these ideas and you say, okay, if you really want to do this, here's what you have to do. And either that's going to really reveal to the parent and the child themselves, do you really want to do this? Or, maybe I'm way over my head. And that's something that is important to recognize in the child is this child actually serious about this? And will he take this as a challenge if you lay out what he actually needs to do? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for these ideas. I hope some parents are listening to this as well.
We
Okay, we
did
have
get a
our first
question.
question. Yeah, okay, Antonio, do you want to read it?
I can read it, yeah.
Yeah, go
Sometimes I
ahead.
have a hard time trying to find what ideas to take action on when it comes to making an impact. What is some good ideas that can help me make a difference? Ooh, that's a deep question. Aria, do you have a response?
So I saw that you were interested in the chat about what was it? Let me pull it up again.
Medical
It's
offices.
volunteering for medical
Volunteering.
offices to make a
Yeah.
difference. Yeah, medical volunteer.
So something that I would recommend is starting something small. Like as we're talking about the idea, if I could do this myself, I would honestly start like if you have social media, a little Instagram faceless account where you just post fun facts about medical. I see them all the time on my Instagram about did you know that medicine is blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I actually did not know that. So if you're passionate about medical, medicine, whatever aspect of healthcare it is, try making try making your knowledge something that is try making your knowledge useful. So that way you can interest more people and then when you are able to start volunteering in those medical offices, you can say, well, I've been passionate about it for this long. Here's my receipts.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to build up that resume and help you get maybe possibly an internship. I've seen that happen to multiple of my friends. Another thing that you could do is, sometimes there's local community clubs or even school clubs that you could join. And once you get into those clubs, maybe you're like a freshman and, you're a new member, but eventually those older, more experienced members are going to need to be replaced by other people. And you could be that next generation that's going to come in and make a difference. So just taking that opportunity, seeing a club that you know fits into what you want to do for the future and joining it and creating, even if it's a little bit of impact, small, can cause ripples that are even huge.
I just thought of something
Right.
else. Writing ans writing letters to hospital patients. You don't have to have all the patient's information, but if you want to do like donating, you want to do care baskets, there's this great thing out there. I think it's Create for Kids, and they literally make gift baskets. They write letters to people, to kids that are in the hospital, and the hospitals will take it and they'll distribute whatever it is that you give them to the kids because they know the kids. Unfortunately, we don't know them, but they know them. So they'll make sure that your efforts go to the best place that they can.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Ari and Antonio, for all these ideas. I think that makes starting up and finding ideas a lot more doable. Right. Okay, I think we'll start wrapping up because we are, we'll be having quite a long session already at this point. So the final question comes from the chat, and the question is, how can students balance community involvement with school, extracurriculars, and family responsibilities? We are all very busy people. How do we balance all that?
Ugh. When I did acapella, I was also an acapella kid for 2 years, three, and we were asked at the beginning of our season, put your priorities, put all your responsibilities on a list from most important to least important. Divvy up, no, not divvy up yet. Write down all of your other responsibilities. So if I have school, acapella, let's say I was working, those are my responsibilities. And then your other responsibilities on the other side, which would be like eating dinner, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, things that you should do every day that are non negotiables. And then kind of seeing where you can put them in your life and how important it is to you on a scale from like 1 to 3, or however many you have. So that way you can kind of visualize what needs your most immediate attention. Hint, hint, it's always school, but still.
Yeah, that's a really good way. I've done that before. Another way you can do it is, get into a routine. Know that you have this activity every month or every week and just mark it down on the calendar or just remember that every Wednesday you have this meeting that you need to go to. And eventually your body just gets used to it and you end up walking there, no matter what, whether you actually have the meeting or not. And you just goes into autopilot and you just get used to doing the activity over and over again.
Right, great ideas. All like keep journals, develop habits. Um, Yeah, thank you. I think this was a very meaningful conversation. So many ideas were shared as we wrap up tonight. I want to thank our amazing panelists, Ariana and Antonio, for sharing their stories, your advice, and encouragement to us tonight. Thank you, everyone who joined us. We hope tonight showed you that you don't have to wait to make a difference. You can start now. Um, Ari and Antonio even gave you exact first steps that you can take just this week to start right now. And even one small step can lead to something meaningful, of course. So before you go, please take a moment to fill out this feedback form that you see on the screen. It's helping us really when we collect your feedback to provide you with interesting topics for conversations moving forward. Just let us know how we did. Thank you again for joining us and have a wonderful meeting. Oh, not meeting, evening. Oh, thank you, Ari. Thank you, Antonio. Yeah, you can unmute to say bye to everyone.
Bye, guys. Have a wonderful night.